it's Kristen, and welcome to session 5 of our Achieving More Results module. I hope you've been learning a lot, and I hope some of the sessions that Brendan did, the talking about and getting you kind of thinking about your strategic plan, started kind of getting the wheels going of maybe there's changes we can make, tweaks we can make within our organizational strategic plan. And so hopefully we're giving you a lot to think about. But this can be overwhelming, especially for your team or as a manager, to think about, okay, now we have our, strategies, we have our goals, we have our objectives, we have our action plans, we know what needs to be done. Who is going to be responsible for doing it all? And that really is, the question, to be honest with you, when you have team members who are resident, to change, who really aren't going to be excited about this strategic plan. A lot of times they're thinking, is this on my plate? Am I responsible for this? So a board member of ours, Richard, told me about a model called RACI about a year and a half ago. And I really, really like this model. He managed a lot of teams, international teams, telecommuting teams, people, in the office for MasterCard. And so he had a lot of direct reports, a lot of different projects going on. And this helped provide clarity, because we know when we're working with our staff, when we're working with our teams, you always have to provide clarity, and you actually have to over communicate clarity. When you think you're over communicating, it's probably you're just communicating it enough. You can't really over communicate it. I think that's what they'll tell you in The Advantage, Pat Lencioni. That's a big thing. Just continue to reinforce it and talk about it and communicate what your goals are, what your mission is. So RACI helps because it helps you really set out who is doing what on the organizational level, which will help you as a manager know who is responsible for that task, who is accountable for that task, who had to be consulted, and who had to be informed. Okay, so that is what RACI stands for: responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. So I'm going to show you the sample RACI chart here. I'll move my little head up on the screen. So it's actually, when I look at with Students for Life, I actually think it should be ARCI, accountable, responsible, consulted, informed, because I think of who is ultimately held accountable. So for many tasks, obviously I'm held accountable for everything that anyone does, but the director would be ultimately accountable for the task. But then the subordinate would probably be responsible for the task. So our communications director might be accountable for the email that's going out, announcing a new program, but they're not necessarily responsible for doing the work. So if I were doing it, it would be ARCI, but then I realized that would sound weird. So RACI sounds good. It gets you to the point. But if you think of it this way, we've divided out in a lot of our teams our tasks, and we took Excel sheets and we just listed out what are the reoccurring tasks that we know have to get done. Or maybe it's not a reoccurring task, maybe it's a process, maybe it's a marketing process of, okay, anytime we launch a product, whether it's an online tutorial or a new action kit, there's a certain process, a marketing template that we follow, right? We get a blog written, we write out an email that we send out. We do a text message. We have a personal communication that goes out from our regional coordinators to a select group of students. So we have kind of a process that we follow. We might make social media graphics, or we might make a promo video. So we kind of took out those tasks. So who's responsible for making that promo video? Who's responsible for making those graphics? And you put those here. So you see here on the right, this activity. So this is the actual task that the team is responsible for. And then you can put right here, you can put your staff member names, you can put the titles of their positions. I like using title of their position just because it gives more clarity. And if you swap somebody out to a different team, it doesn't change everything. But then you just fill out, who is the accountable person on this task? Who is the responsible person? Who needs to be consulted? Who needs to be informed? The consulted and informed is really helpful in terms of, especially when you have a team that's growing. So if you've gone from 5 to 10 team members, you are going to have communication problems. You're going to have communication problems because you have a growing team. More people are doing the work, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to know what's going on. So the informed is important. It helps, especially with other team members, in our organization, we have several teams. We have teams, then we have sub teams, because we're, about 50 employees, or maybe a little over 50 now. And so it helps that, a team that's not really going to be responsible for pushing out the marketing plan. So if I'm following my communications example, so the communications team would have a list of activities over here that they have to do anytime a new product or an event's happening. The field director, the person who is managing all of our regional coordinators, isn't really responsible for writing the blog or sending out the email or the copy on that or approving the final guide that gets sent to the printer. But they should definitely be informed of what's happening, because it's going to be ultimately a product that we want their team, the regional coordinators, to then communicate to those who we serve, our students. And so the informed is really helpful. Consulted can vary depending on the organization, but that's also good. Like, I'm actually a C for many things. So there's many tasks that happen, especially with our communications and marketing team, that I'm consulted on. I'm not responsible and I'm not held accountable for the task, ultimately I'm held accountable for everything as president of the organization. But as my kind of functions on the comms team, how I come this ad hoc comms member, I'm consulted on most things. I take a look at them. I do the final editing on them. Everything's kind of run by and through me on a lot of processes and programs that we're launching. So this is something that's super simple. And like I said, when we first was introduced to this, I couldn't believe we kind of hadn't come up with this on our own. We sort of had some makeshift RACIs, but they weren't as simple as this. And this is something we do, and we actually on our team reevaluate the RACI. So we have quarterly meetings. So this is part of that advantage process I talked about in the session 1 with Pat Lencioni. But it's part of our kind of reshaping of our team to model off of some recommendations from Pat Lencioni and his Evangelium Consultants group. We do quarterly meetings with all of our teams. And at the quarterly meetings, we reevaluate what our team objectives are, what our goals for our team are. We have organizational goals, but every team has its own kind of goal. A lot of times it's internal, like, communicate better with other teams, respond quicker. But then so we go over what our objectives are as our team, how we're doing on our goals. But then we also go through this RACI. And it helps us see, like, have things shifted? Have tasks shifted? We added this new person. Did they get assigned these tasks? Have we moved something off somebody else's plate? So I hope this is helpful, especially since you've kind of gone through this strategic brainstorming, and hopefully you've got some ideas have been generating of programs to launch, outcomes to start tracking. You're going to have to assign those tasks. So use RACI to do that. Thanks, guys. I'll be back soon with another session.